Welcome everyone to this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program 1.0.5. This is episode 34. Now, in the previous episode, we somewhat redundantly sent up this Convert-O-Tron 125 to convert the ore that we had just hanging around in these small holding tanks from a previous contract. Now, the reason it was somewhat redundantly is because this orange tank contained enough spare fuel to refuel our little Rocamax X216 down here at the bottom. The idea being that fuel would be sufficient to bring Valentina and Jeb back into orbit of Kerbin from where they could be rescued. But I've had another change of plan. In this case, as John Nowak correctly surmised, we're going back to Minmus. So let's go and create a maneuver node to do exactly that. Now, Minmus is down here in the lower right of the screen here, so let's just set that. If we can click it, there we go. Set that as our target. Now, we are here. This is our orbit. And what I'm going to try and do is swing us around to meet Minmus somewhere over here as it traverses around its orbit. So let's go and add a maneuver here and just start expanding our horizons, expanding our orbit. So let's just keep doing that. You can see our current maneuver, current maneuver's result is here. So we're not going to be meeting very closely, but we are at somewhat different inclined orbits. So we're going to have to sort that out as well. So let's do that. There we are, so we've done that, and let's just keep expanding our... Did we have a encounter there? Where are we? There we go. We're still quite a way off on our inclination. So let's send that back and keep expanding. Now, we want to try and bring our orbits as close together as possible. So let's just start pulling back. You see we're getting a bit closer here. Let's pull back on the radial marker. Keep pulling. Just see how we're doing. We're a little bit off on our inclination. There we go. So we have got an encounter of sorts. So let's just see how well we're doing. You can just see here. So if we go and focus on Minmus using precise node and draw ourselves in, we can see we are well above orbit at the moment. So let's start bringing us down. We've just lost our encounter, so let's go back to pulling on our radial marker. Too far, so let's pull it out in this direction. There we go again. Right, so we have our encounter, so it's just a case now of using precise node to improve it. So let's just bring ourselves down so we get a little bit more into the plane. Oh, too far. Just bring ourselves back using the radial marker. Looks like we've lost it. There we go. So let's bring ourselves across and down. There we go. So that's a periapsis of 1,000,000. I think we need to do a little bit better than that. So let's keep going. Oh. A little bit too high up still. Let's keep going. So how are we doing now? Keep bringing ourselves in. See, we are 923 kilometres, still a long way to go. 500. I'm going to get it down as close to 100 as we can. 133, 54. Slightly too much, so let's just pull back out. 88. 89. 103, there we go. Now, we're a bit of an inclination, so we can try to correct that. But I think at this distance, we're probably better off executing the manoeuvre and then making some adjustments when we're a lot closer. Now, before we complete that manoeuvre, we are going to do the second activity that John Nowak quite correctly anticipated. We are going to dump another piece of junk into orbit of Kerbin. We are going to have to come back and sort this out, but for the time being, there we go. So that's another piece of debris into orbit of Kerbin. So let's just get the RCS on and just back away a little bit. There we go. So there we are. We've just backed away just a little bit from our orange debris. I'm sure that's made a significant difference to our manoeuvre node now, as little as that might seem. But where are we? I see 119 now, so it did make quite a considerable difference from 80, was it 89 to 119, that slight change, that slight puff of RCS. But let us crack on and execute our manoeuvre. So let's just focus back on our vessel. And what we're going to do now is just accelerate up to our manoeuvre node. So let's accelerate up using time warp to within 3 minutes of our manoeuvre. So let's just click on that handle and let the magic of time warp do its thing. So we're closing in now on the manoeuvre. Just see down here we've got about 30 minutes to go. So dropping out of time warp. We should have about 3 minutes to make the necessary adjustments. Now we've got two KOS probe cores there, one from the original vessel and one from the Convert-O-Tron vessel, so it doesn't really matter which one we use. We can prepare to run our node as usual, and that's going to tell us some basic details. We've got 198.5 meters per second to burn off. It's going to be a 33-second burn, and we will begin locking our alignment at 1 minute 17 seconds. So let's just get our pre-alignment phase done and just get locked on to our node. Now I'm going to turn the RCS off because we don't really need that. We've got a nice big reaction wheel on the ore transporter. There we go. Let's just come out of map mode. There we go. We can see the ore transporter now with its Convert-O-Tron there on the top. Just see Kerbin there in the background. So let's just complete our manoeuvre. There we go. So we've now pre-aligned, and we've got 2.5 minutes till node. So let's just fast forward to get round to the lock alignment phase at 1 minute 17. 140, 30, bring ourselves out of time warp just in time to lock on. There we are. So that's locked on to our manoeuvre node, and now let's just potter around to our 17-second mark. Now this is certainly a lot of brute force and ignorance. I'm sure there are way better ways of completing this manoeuvre, but this will do for us. It achieves our goal. Let's just pop out of time warp there, ready for our manoeuvre and firing the engine. Scripts doing all of the work, burning off our 198.5 meters per second. Exhaust gases being plumed there into the distance. Oh dear. So we're about a third of the way through our burn. About halfway now. Now if we pop back into map mode, we can watch our new trajectory unfold. So this is our blue actual trajectory, and this is our target trajectory around to our encounter with Minmus over here. A brief encounter there with, I think that's the Mun. And we're just burning off the last few bits of Delta V. There we go. Now, it's not quite managing to lock on to our encounter, but I'm quite convinced we do have one. So let's warp round to our SOI. So here's our craft here, centered on the screen. And we're just warping around here to our change of SOI. Now it looks like we're going to have to make some significant changes to our trajectory because we're going completely the wrong way around Minmus at this point. So we're going to have to bring the trajectory around to this side. And we'll do that with a maneuver node as soon as we cross sphere of influence. So let's just speed up time, cross that last little bit of distance to the change of sphere of influence. Almost there, and there we go. Right, now we are going completely the wrong way around Minmus, so let's just add a maneuver node and then just change our distance. Change our direction. Again, not the best way of doing this at all. Let's just bring this back a little, I think. There we go. So what's that? 11,000. $59. Now we're aiming for a target of Minmus Station 1, so let's just set that as a target. Let's center Minmus on the screen, just make it a little bit easier to maneuver our maneuver node. Here we go. So we are 89 and Minmus Station 1 is at about 99, so let's just bring our radial out a little bit further. So what's that? 90. You can see it 90 on the screen there. 90. $93. 97. 100. Now let's just correct to get into the same plane. What I want to try and do is get our periapsis onto this trajectory of our Minmus Station 1 to make rendezvous a little bit easier. So let's just try that with the normal trajectory maneuver handle, which you can use just by clicking this plus minus here. There we go. And we're still at about 100, just a little bit, just a tiny fraction too far out. So let's just put ourselves in as well, get on as 99, and we are pretty much on target for our intersection with Minmus Station 1. So let's just execute this node. Now it's only 55 meters. It's a 7-second burn. So let's get that executed. Let's again use our maneuver node script. So it's going to be a 55 meters per second burn, 8.9 seconds, and we're going to be locking our alignment at 64. So let's get our pre-alignment done. And and then a motor on in towards our node. There we go, so let's just warp to maneuver. Gives us our 3-second window to finalise our manoeuvres. Time warp just dropping down. There we go, out of time warp at 3 minutes. So we're going to lock on at 1 minute and 4, so let's just use a little bit of manual time warping to do that. There we go. 1 minute 6, 5 and 4. So locked on, and let's time warp forward to 4 seconds, t plus 4. There's 30, 20, 7, 6, 5 and 4. So this is a pretty brutal change of direction, but it will bring us into the right trajectory to meet up with Minmus Station 1. There we go. So we're now orbiting in the right direction. And only 0.1 of a meter per second remaining, so that's pretty accurate. So, next things next. Now, we're going to put a circularization maneuver in now. It doesn't particularly matter where we add it, because we're going to use the handy periapsis button here on precise node to snap that into place. Then we're going to pull again on the retrograde handle until we have ourselves, there we go, until we have ourselves our circularization, our circular orbit. It's a very eccentric circle, but a circuit nonetheless. And now we can adjust to get our close encounter. So a little bit too much, a bit twitchy. So let's go over and use precise node and see if we can do any better. Just bringing it back. There we go. 0.4, 400 meters. So if we execute this maneuver absolutely exactly, one orbit around this eccentric circle will bring us 400 meters from our target. Brilliant. So let's again get ready with our node script. It's 55, almost 56 meters, another 8.8 second burn. So let's get ourselves pre-aligned as usual. There we are. And then let's warp to here. So that should give us plenty of time to do further adjustments. Oh, where are we? There we go. There's Val and Jeb on their approach towards Minmus. Coming up to 1 hour from manoeuvre. So we've still got 23 minutes to go, so let's just warp a little bit further forward. See our station here. If we weren't if we planned this a bit better, maybe we could have rendezvoused directly, but never mind. Still got 14 minutes to go, so let's just manually time warp a little bit further forward till we get to about our 3-minute mark. Now I'd like to try clicking on these handles, but with both the periapsis handle and the maneuver node handle on top of each other, you tend to end up coming in at exactly the maneuver node, because the periapsis warp to handle seems to take priority. So I am going to do this manually and hopefully avoid overshooting our maneuver. So we've got just over 10 minutes to go. 9, 8, 7, 6, and 5, 4, 3. There we go. So let's slow down time warp a little. We're going to be doing our lock at 1 minute and 4. So let's just manage time warp down to 1 minute and 4. So 120, 110. And there we are, locked on. So maneuver at T minus 4. So let's again use the miracle of time warp to move us forward. Go through 30 and 20 and then down to 10. Just watch Val and Jeb manage their approach. Don't know if we can see. It's not quite. Oh, there it is. There we go. There's Minmus Station 1. That's our target, just there in the background. So we arrived just a little bit too early. Here we go. 0.6 left. So that's actually left us with slight distance. What is that distance? It's there we go, 37 kilometers. Now we can have a go using RCS to burn off that last little bit. So we can use the H and N keys just to see if we can bring that last little bit of delta V under control. So just tapping here on the H key, just bringing us back around. So we're wobbling around a bit. But that's not so bad. It's not so bad. Now we're wobbling because this giant great Convert-O-Tron that we didn't actually need is stuck to the front. But seeing as it's here, and seeing as we are now about about halfway through our fuel, we may as well enable it. So let's just start the ISRU converter and convert what all we have into liquid fuel and oxidizer. So that'll start burning through our ore, and just make sure we have plenty of fuel for the final stages of our journey. So whilst that's going, I guess we ought to go around our orbit to about let's say about here, warp to here, and just see what our final separation is likely to be. Can we see here? Can't quite get over the markers. So I don't think we're going to need our KOS window, but we are going to use the Kerbal Engineer. We're going to use the Rendezvous HUD, and I brought that down here. We've got the selected target being Minmus Station 1. Current distance is 82 kilometers with a relative velocity of 62 meters per second, which is great. So let's come out of map mode now and actually watch the approach. So let's get ourselves turned around. We'll turn off RCS for the moment, save ourselves some RCS. And there's our target, 81 kilometers away. Let's get ourselves into target relative speed. So that's the same there as this figure here. And begin our herding. Now I'm just going to go way over to this side here and just gently start our herding activity. Just coming in a little bit above the station, which is good because we're going to be docking to the upper docking port as usual. So let's just come out of time warp again and just make sure we're ready to decelerate. let's finish herding. Seven and a half meters per second with 1.8 kilometers to go. So let's just cross this last hurdle. So 1.432. There we go. So we're down into the thousands of meters now. Come out of time warp as we get to 500 meters. So we're going pretty much straight for the station, maybe a little bit low because I really wanted to come in above the station, so maybe we're a bit lower than I thought. 400 meters, we just use one tick of time warp. There we go, you can make out the habitation ring quite clearly now. 300 meters. Still 7.5 meters per second. We're just sliding down the right hand side of the station. So I'm going to get within 100 meters and then we'll start killing off our target speed. There we go. Just so let's just dribble off the target speed, just control our approach. So just under 7 meters per second, 6 meters per second, there's 5. Not too worried now that the two markers are drifting apart because I want to be a little bit away from the station. Go 3 meters per second, 2. Get ready to kill the engine. There we go, we'll kill it at 0.7. I'm just drifting a little bit towards it maybe. So let's just push ourselves away. Use a little bit of, just tiniest of puffs. 5, 4. Here we go. So, into docking mode. Right, so first things first, let's control from here. So that's going to be the docking port that we are going to be doing the docking from. And the docking to, we'll bring up the docking alignment indicator and we'll use the little keys here to choose which port. At the moment it's chosen this port down here at the bottom. So if we click on this right button, it's selected the one here, and finally if we click it again, it's picked the one there at the top. So let's get ourselves aligned. We can switch off our rendezvous indicator now, we don't need that. Or our supplies window, let's click that off. We'll come back to supplies later. But one thing I do want to do, just in case I make a mistake, is shut down this engine. So let's make sure that engine is off while we're doing this manoeuvring. I wouldn't want to mess up and find myself flying out into space. Not that we haven't flown out into space already. Yep, okay, fine, made that mistake. Right, so let's just begin with this large reticule here. Bring that down into the center. Just bring it over. There we go. So that's alignment number 1. Now I'm actually going to switch off this large reaction wheel and just use everything on RCS. Next we're going to rotate, just get ourselves rotated and aligned with the station. Not entirely essential, we're not going to be there long. Just to drop off one of our pilots, we need to make space for Bill to bring him back from the surface. So let's just, here we go, finish rotating and just get ourselves realigned there at the center. Here we go. Now let's use our N key to back up and get ourselves the right side of the port, which will be indicated by the red lines here turning green. So let's just reverse up. Now this craft isn't perfectly balanced, although this one was and this one was individually. That doesn't mean together they are perfectly balanced, and so there probably is quite a bit of torque. So we are going to have to be careful. Very slight and gentle manoeuvres. So let's just see if we can keep our main reticule here aligned. And just get our translation reticule ready to start moving us towards the port. There we go, so we're now the right side of the port, so let's slow down. Just see our speed here relative to the port is 0.2 meters per second. Let's get that down to pretty much 0. And now let's just worry about translating and moving these green lines into the center of the crosshairs. So the further this reticule is to the edge, the quicker these lines will be coming in. And you can see as we translate, our axis is swinging, demonstrating that we aren't really that well aligned. But we should be okay. Just small, gentle manoeuvres, and the reticules recenter. So we have a grand total distance of just under 14 meters to go. We're moving forward very, very fractionally, and we are 3.6 meters above the docking port. So let's reduce the distance this reticule is above the line, reduce the speed at which we are approaching the axis. Here we go, come across. Keep moving that little yellow reticule towards the centre as if it's being herded by the green lines. Let's just push forward a little because we're pretty much lined up now. There we go, coming forward now at about 0.5 meter a second. Just about make that out down here. And magnetism takes over. Clamped in position. Excellent. Good job there, Val and Jeb. Excellent piloting, as usual. So we have now reattached our ore transporter back to the station from whence it came. But we're not quite finished. We're not quite finished. I was looking at the supplies by accident earlier, and we do have quite a bit of supplies spread between the various supply pods on this craft, on the station and on the ore transporter, because we did bring up right, if can we just squeeze in here? Not really. There we go. Just in here is a life support tank, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer out some of that life support into the life support containers on the station. So there's one there. So let's just alt click, and we're going to transfer out some life support, because I want to make sure that the crew of the station are well supplied while we go and pick up Bill from the surface. So let's just do that. Now the station is producing a small amount of supplies, but possibly not for all of the Kerbals that are on board. So we do need to take care our Kerbals don't run out of snacks. Now I think, if I look carefully, somewhere else around here is another set of, there we go, there's another set of these life support mini packs. So let's just go and alt click those two and transfer out these as well. So that'll give the station plenty of supplies. Now you'll notice that only Jeb and Val are shown down here in the bottom right. Well, that's because crew in the habitation module, or habitation ring I should say, don't show up as crew. So we are going to do some crew transferring now. So let's go and get Val, I think, out of the capsule. Let's give Val a bit of a rest. So transfer Val, and we're going to transfer her down into, see if I can grab hold of, nope, can't do it. Let's try again. So let's transfer crew. Come on. Let's cancel that. Let's try again. Transfer crew, transfer Val, and we just got to get, there we go, there's Val, transferred down there into the Pioneer module. Now we've got to do the same thing here for Tamthy and Bob. So let's get Tamthy, not Tamthy's inventory, let's do transfer crew for Tamthy, and we're going to transfer Tamthy again into the Pioneer module, and we're going to put Bill, or Bob rather, transfer Bob, the scientist, down here into the agroponics module, so we can do a little bit of greenhouse work. So let's just start the greenhouse. There we go. So we start the greenhouse. So that'll give them a little bit of extra supplies, whilst Jeb is on his way down to the surface to rescue poor Bill. And we'll do that in the next episode. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.